let's go ahead and take a closer look at iron deficiency anemia. And in iron deficiency anemia, it's just like its name says. It is a deficiency of iron. And so having a theme of asking questions to be able to make linkages and remember different facts about each disorder, the obvious question here would be why is the body deficient in iron? If you just go ahead and think about this, why is there a deficiency in iron? It comes down to one of two things. There could be a increased need for iron. And so think about why. Why would there be an increased need for iron? Well, there would be some kind of rapid growth where there would be a need for many RBCs to be produced very rapidly, and so rapid growth would be one. And if you think about times where there would be rapid growth in the human body, it would be a child undergoing a growth spurt, or perhaps pregnancy, where the mother is having to produce more blood cells for both her and the baby. And another reason would be that you lost blood, and you lost iron through blood loss. So blood loss would be another, either through injury, that would be a rapid loss, or perhaps through menses, heavy menses, or perhaps some sort of intestinal problem. So that's number one, is increased need. Again, why would there be deficiency if the need has remained the same? Let's scroll on down here and try and figure that part out. So here we are. So if your requirements for iron have not changed, then something else must be going on to make your iron levels deficient. And so the second reason could be that you're just not eating enough. Your intake is reduced. And so we need to think about this, because this has real clinical ramifications for patients. If they have a reduced iron level and we need to find out whether intake is a problem, we need to take a look at what they're eating. And we need to figure that iron actually comes in two forms. We've got heme, which is found in meats, fish, and we've got non-heme, which is found in plants. So we have to take a look at the diets of our patients to find out if they're eating foods that contain a high enough amount of iron. Heme is absorbed much more readily in the body than is the non-heme. So if you have a client who is taking in a lot of plants and not a whole lot of meats, you need to really take a look at how to adjust that so that their intake is adequate for their body needs. But what if you find out that their intake is adequate? What else could be causing a problem for iron intake into the body? If they're eating enough and their needs have remained consistent, then you have to think that perhaps maybe something is happening after they eat it. So perhaps there is a reduced rate of absorption in the body. Perhaps something is happening to the iron once it gets into the body that's not allowing it to get to where it needs. I think we're going to change gears here and really get into absorption. Let's go ahead and track iron as it moves through the body so that we can then see how interventions that we might take with our clients can affect the amount of iron readily available for them to reduce their iron deficiency anemia status. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen here. If our patients don't have a changed need or requirement for iron and they're eating enough iron, then absorption is probably the issue in the body. So we're gonna take a look at how iron is absorbed in the body. It is very important that you know this, because this is going to really make a difference in how you understand what your labs are saying, and also how you understand the treatments that are needed for iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so I've cleared my screen here so that we can dive a little bit deeper into absorption. And in order to do that, we're going to track iron. As it moves through the body, it gets absorbed and becomes a red blood cell. So we have somebody here who is very hungry. This person here is very, very hungry, and they're feeling like they need a nice big hamburger. And so in goes the hamburger into the person. That's their adequate protein intake. And so then that hamburger goes down into the person's stomach. So here it is in the stomach, and it's the stomach acid that breaks down through a series of chemical reactions, breaks down the iron. If something, let's stop here, because if something were to get in the way of this breakdown of iron by the stomach acid, then there would be inadequate absorption of that. So what could do that? What could cause a reduced rate of breakdown by the stomach acid? And the answer to that is several different foods. Coffee, tea, whole grains, your calcium and dairy, dairy products, and along the same lines of calcium, your antacids. If you have somebody who's eating a lot of antacids, they're going to have problems absorbing iron if their intake isn't all on the fence. So it's important, if you have somebody with reduced iron, to take a look at these things right here. Then from the stomach, the iron is then, it then enters into the intestines. And that's not a very good representation of the intestines there, but this is the intestines. And so it undergoes another series of chemical events, chemical reactions in the intestines, and then it breaks down and enters the bloodstream. Now remember that a series of chemical reactions is happening here. It doesn't just break down and enter into the bloodstream just like that. So just keep in mind that there is a chemical reaction going on here. And so in order for the iron to be able to move through the bloodstream, there has to be a substance called transferrin. And it attaches itself to the broken down iron, and they travel through the bloodstream together. So remember, transferrin is very important in the absorption of iron. So once it's in the bloodstream, the iron is then moved through the body to where it's needed. Now, some of it goes into the myoglobin of the muscles, and the majority of it goes to the bone marrow, where it is made into hemoglobin and attached to the red blood cells. And so that is then made into red blood cells. Red blood cells, of course, we went over the shape before. And so those red blood cells, they circulate through the body with the hemoglobin attached, carrying oxygen throughout the body. And once they are no longer effective, they get broken down by a very special white blood cell. And then that white blood cell transfers it back to the transferrin, where it circulates to be made back into a functioning red blood cell. So in this way, this process here is kind of like a recycling of the iron in the body. So if something were to happen with this process right here, that would also interfere with the iron levels in your body. If there is enough iron in the bloodstream, the transferrin will bring that iron to the liver, and that way iron is recycled between the liver and the blood.